Morning. My name is Kim Mattioli, and I am the Student Services Librarian at the Jerome Hall Law Library at the Indiana University Maurer School of Law, and I'm just here to give you a brief introduction. Thank you for attending today's webinar, which is sponsored by Indigo and the Indiana State Library. So Indigo, the Indiana Networking for Documents and Information of Government Organizations, is a special interest group for government information professionals who are dedicated to issues concerning government documents and access to federal and state information. We are happy to present this two-part webinar series entitled Researching the Law, Finding Cases and Judicial Documents. So last week I presented part one, an introduction to court structure and finding case law. And today Jennifer Morgan will present part two, an introduction to judicial dockets, oral argument, and court records and briefs. Jennifer is the government documents librarian here at the Jerome Hall Law Library at the Indiana University Maurer School of Law. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer, and we have to switch headphones, so bear with us for a second.
Hi everybody, this is Jennifer, and today I will start with an overview of court dockets, records, and pleadings. We'll talk about researching court dockets online and the different sources that you can use for federal dockets, and then we'll talk about other sources that you can use to find oral arguments and court briefs. So let's start by looking at what a court docket is. A court docket is a record of all documents filed by the court, parties, or any other entity in a court proceeding. The docket will include all filings, such as pleadings, briefs, declarations, exhibits, orders, judgments, and sometimes court notations, such as the payment of fees or continuances of dates. In a civil matter, the docket will usually begin with the filing of a summons and complaint, while in a criminal matter, the docket begins with an indictment. Docket research is generally used to find information about a particular case. Dockets contain information about the judge hearing the case, the parties involved, attorneys involved, the facts and events of a case, and more. Dockets are generally useful for researching trial-level cases. Some trials may last many years and involve many events, and there will be no written opinion. Dockets are important for locating information about these cases. Examples of documents that can be identified and sometimes located by retrieving a trial court docket include pleadings, motions, testimony transcripts, jury instructions and worksheets, judge rulings, expert witness names, and more. Appellate court dockets are also important. Appellate dockets may include important dates, information about briefs filed in a case numbers, parties, and attorneys involved. When most people think of court cases, they picture lawyers arguing in front of a judge and jury. But in reality, the majority of time spent in most court cases consists of formal writing and responses. This formal writing breaks down into two categories of documents, pleadings and motions. A pleading demands that the other party do something, while a motion requests that the judge in the case do something. These documents can be submitted to the court before, during, or after the trial, though pleadings are typically filed at or near a case's beginning. Pleadings are formal documents that state the party's basic positions and include complaints, memoranda of points and authorities, answers, replies, and motions. These documents are useful for legal researchers because they can provide additional insight into the arguments presented to the court, arguments which either persuaded or failed to persuade the court. The pleadings will often include the facts of the case, the legal issues presented in the case, and the legal arguments that support or refute those issues. The complaint is probably the most important pleading in a civil case, since it frames the issues of the case by setting out the plaintiff's version of the facts and specifying the damages. The complaint includes various counts, that is, distinct statements of the plaintiff's cause of action, highlighting the factual and legal basis of the suit. A memorandum of points and authorities is a document that cites legal authorities, such as statutes and court cases. and explains how those authorities support the position advocated by the party who wrote the memorandum. This type of memorandum is often written to support a motion. An answer is a statement by the defendant that usually explains why the plaintiff should not prevail. It may also offer additional facts or plead an excuse. Any party in the case may have to file a reply, which is an answer to new allegations raised in pleadings. Motions are not pleadings, but are requests for the judge to make a legal ruling. Some of the most common pretrial motions include motion to discover, by which one party seeks to gain information from the adverse party, a motion to dismiss, which asks the court to dismiss the suit because the suit doesn't have a legally sound basis, even if all the facts alleged are proven true, and a motion for summary judgment, which is sometimes called a motion for summary disposition. This motion asks the court for a judgment on the merits of the case before the trial. It is properly made when there is no dispute about the facts and only a question of law needs to be decided. Court briefs and oral arguments are part of the court record also, and are often of interest to researchers. Legal researchers often find it helpful to read briefs submitted by the parties in cases before appellate courts. Before presenting their oral arguments, counsel for both sides will submit a legal brief, which is a written document that summarizes the facts of the case, as well as the legal reasoning behind their arguments. Oral arguments are the advocate's oral presentations and questions by the judges or justices. So think of oral argument as a high-powered conversation between the justices and the attorneys. The attorneys have an opportunity to add to the arguments contained in their briefs and clear up any misconceptions or questions raised by their briefs. There are different types of briefs, which we'll look at now. The certiorari stage briefs are the efforts by parties to tell the court why it should or should not take a case. Once the Supreme Court has granted certiorari in a case, each party has the opportunity to file merits briefs to tell the court why it thinks it deserves to win. Once the Supreme Court has granted certiorari, each party will file their merit briefs. Unlike the certiorari stage briefs, which tell the court why it should or should not take the case, the merits briefs tell the court why each party thinks it deserves to win. Then you have amicus curiae briefs, or friend of the court briefs. This is a brief filed by a person, group, or entity that is not a party to the case, but nonetheless wishes to provide the court with its perspective on the issues before it. The person or entity is called an amicus, and the plural is amici. Although court filings are considered to be public records, their availability varies widely by jurisdiction. But the growth of electronic filing has improved online access to recent materials. However, historical records and briefs might be more difficult to obtain without contacting the office of the court clerk, and this might require substantial copying fees. One exception is the U.S. Supreme Court. Historical records and briefs of the U.S. Supreme Court are available through 2 subscription databases, and we'll talk about those later. Now let's look at a docket sheet. Once an action has commenced in a court case, the court maintains a docket sheet, which is a chronological list noting the date and description of each document filed in the action. Think of a docket sheet as a table of contents of the materials filed in the court case. The docket sheet outlines the chronological lifespan of that case, and it lists the parties, participating attorneys, nature of suit code, and all filings and events, such as complaints, pleadings, briefs, letters, hearings, schedules, and transcripts. Let's take a closer look at this docket sheet. If I can get the mouse to work, we'll zoom in and look at this case. So here on this docket sheet, we have the court. It's the U.S. District Court, California Northern District. And we have the case name, Swift v. Central Marin Police Authority, and others. The judge that the case was assigned to is listed here. And then you have the dates that the case was filed and terminated over on the right. This means that the plaintiff demanded a jury trial, And here's the nature of suit code. It's a civil rights case. When filing a civil case in a federal district court, attorneys must identify one and only one of 90 issue area nature of suit codes that best describes their case. And they fill that out on the cover sheet for their complaint. And we might take a look at one of those later. So dockets also include detailed information about parties and their attorneys. And this can be an important tool for finding out which lawyers or law firms are representing clients in cases. So if we scroll down further the docket sheet now, we'll see the details that list the date of the events in the case, details of arguments or document submissions, as well as some information about the event. And I'll zoom in so you can see that closer. So you can see here the complaint was filed on February 22nd, 2017. Also notice that individual documents are assigned a sequential docket item number, which is noted in this column on the left side of the docket sheet. You'll also see information such as the filing date of the document, the date of entry, that is the date that the clerk entered the entry into the docket sheet, and sometimes you'll get information about the party or entity filing that event. Since electronic filing has become the norm in federal courts, many documents are available online in PDF format. So if the underlying filing is publicly available, you can click on the hyperlink under the item number, and then you can download, print, or view the document. So you'll see that some of these documents are hyperlinked, which means they're accessible to you. One good thing to know is that dockets are kept throughout the lifetime of a pending action and after the final disposition of the case. However, not all docket information is available online because some records may be sealed or even destroyed. Let's look at a docket number now. The term docket number is generally used synonymously with the term case number. Courts assign each newly filed case a docket number to make it easier to track, and understanding how docket numbers are constructed can be helpful for correcting mistyped docket numbers and determining where and when a case was filed. So each court generally has its own system for assigning docket numbers, which may include some or all of the following: the year the case was filed in a 2 or 4-digit format, the court the case was filed in, represented by a letter or a number, the case type code. Common case types include CV for civil, CR for criminal, or BR for bankruptcy. Then you'll see a reference number, usually assigned sequentially to each case as it's filed. And then some district courts add judges' initials or other identifying information at the end of the number. So when you're searching for a docket, you can skip any of those letters or numbers after the sequential case number because they're not officially part of the docket number. They're just simply local notes. If you need to find out how a specific court assigns docket numbers, then you would go to that court's website and look for information on how they do that. So here we have our case, and you can see the 2 different docket numbers. Here is the docket number for the Court of Appeals case. And then further down, here's the docket number for the district court. And you can see that in the appellate court case, the first number before the hyphen is the year the case was filed, and then just simply this individual sequentially assigned case number. And then the district court docket numbers are a little more complicated. You have a code for the court or the office where the case was filed. Then here's the year, which is 17. This is a civil case, so you have a CV. And then here's that sequential individual case number, and then the judge's initials. So before attempting to locate pleadings and records from a specific case, you should first identify as much information about the case as possible. You want to see if you can find the full names of the parties, the docket or case numbers of the original case, as well as docket numbers for any appeals. You want to find out the location of the court in which the case was filed, as well as the courts of any appeals. The date, either exact or approximate of the case and its appeals, and then the names of judges or attorneys involved in the case. You can find all of this case information in the published decision. You may find it in law review articles, legal treatises, newspapers, or even on the internet on advocacy websites. So our first online docket that we'll look at will be at the Supreme Court's website, the U.S. Supreme Court. And they provide, as you saw from Kim's webinar last week, they provide the full text of opinions. They also provide docket sheets and filings, oral argument transcripts and audio files, and briefs for cases decided 2017 and later. The Supreme Court's docket system contains information about cases both pending and decided that have been filed at the court since the beginning of the 2001 term. And then in 2017, something really awesome happened. The U.S. Supreme Court set up its own electronic filing system. They hadn't done that before. They were never a part of PACER. So now they have an electronic filing system, and they've made almost all of their records available online at no cost. So let's go. I'm going to flip over to the handout. I made a resource guide which is available to you in PDF, and everything that we're going to look at is annotated and linked here. So here's the link for the Supreme Court, and we'll go to the website. And you can search for dockets two ways. You can click on this link up here in the upper right-hand corner that says Docket Search, or if you come over here under Case Documents, you can click on Docket Search there, and it just takes you to this same page. You can search for the docket in a particular case by using a Supreme Court docket number, a case name, or any other words or numbers included on a docket report. And the format you can see here for a Supreme Court docket number is term year dash number. There's an example. So I could type in the case name, or I could type in the docket number. I'll just type in the docket number for this case, which was in the news recently, because it arose from the Indiana Supreme Court. This is Tyson Timms v. Indiana. So just click on this link here, and it will take you to the docket sheet. I'll zoom in a little bit, and you can see the title of the case, Tyson Timms v. Indiana, the date that it was docketed, the court that it came from, the Supreme Court of Indiana, the date the case was decided, and then you have the chronological listing of the life of the case. And the first link here is the petition for certiorari. And remember, as Kim described this last week, it's a request that the Supreme Court hear the case. So here's the petition for cert in a PDF. I'll close that. And then you'll see other types of pleadings and filings and briefs. So here we have an amicus brief. So if you click on that, it takes you right to the brief. And et cetera, et cetera. And if you go to the end, you will find the opinion of the court. So this U.S. Supreme Court overturned the decision of the Indiana Supreme Court in its decision, and Justice Ginsburg delivered the opinion of the court. And then below that, you'll see the attorneys for the petitioners, and the attorney for the state of Indiana is the Solicitor General, Thomas Fisher. So that's a docket sheet with linked underlying filings for the U.S. Supreme Court. We're going to talk about oral argument later, but while we're here, I'll show you what's available at the U.S. Supreme Court's website. So the Supreme Court website has oral argument and audio files and transcripts available. So one thing you could do is click here on oral argument, and then let's go to audio first. So you have to know when your case was decided, and it actually came out in the 2018 term. And it was this session, November 26. And so you click on the docket number. So there is an audio file that you can download in different formats. And also, here's one way to access the transcript of the oral argument. It's here in a PDF format. The other way to get to the transcript is just click on the transcript from the menu in the oral argument section of the Supreme Court website. And you just have to go through that same process of knowing what term it was and when it was heard and choosing it from there. Okay. Now let's go back to our presentation and we'll look at PACER. PACER is an online service that allows instant access to virtually all documents filed by a judge or the parties in all U.S. courts of appeals, district courts, and bankruptcy courts. So that's the federal district courts and the U.S. courts of appeals, not the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court has their own system. PACER is financed by user fees, and the cost is 10 cents per search or page that you look at, an access page, and it's billed quarterly. But PACER just upped their cap. So if you incur charges less than $30 or less in a quarter, then they don't bill you anything. So they like to say now, as a result, over 75% of active PACER users each quarter will not pay a bill. In addition, federal courts also may grant fee-exempt access to those who qualify, and then parties in a case and the attorneys of record can also receive free copies of documents filed. And then they have a whole database of the opinions of the courts, which are accessed free of charge by anyone. So let's go live to PACER, and you can click on it on the link from the handout, or it's just pacer.gov. And there's a lot of information here if you've never used PACER. We have PACER announcements, and the newsletter is informative, so there's some stuff there that you can look at. Also, this is like a little FAQ menu on the right here. Who can access PACER? How do I access PACER? How much does PACER cost? And then over here on the left are frequently used. So here's the FAQs. Frequently asked questions, a link to register for an account, and here's the training page. So that's all good stuff to know. If you want to register, go up here and click on register, and then you can use this little guided tool to help you figure out what kind of account you want, but pretty much you're going to want to get the PACER case search only, because unless you are an attorney filing documents or a pro se litigant or involved in some kind of case, those are the other options. So if you're doing research, choose case search only. And then complete the online registration form. And I think at some point you put in a credit card, but they're not going to charge you unless you incur over $30 worth of charges in one quarter. So let's go, I'm going to show you here. So to find dockets, you would click on Find a Case, and you could either start with the PACER Case Locator or search individual court websites. So let's start with the PACER Case Locator. And then I have to log in. So it should have saved my login information. I hope that's the right one. Yep, okay. So the PACER Case Locator is a national index for the U.S. district courts, appellate courts, and bankruptcy courts. And you would want to use this finding tool if you're not sure in which specific federal court the case was filed. You can also conduct nationwide searches to determine whether or not a party is involved in a federal case. And the PACER database updates at midnight each day. So let's look at the court information before we run our search. If you come up here to this menu and click on court information, then this tells you what the content coverage is for each case. So it's a super long list of every court that's included here, every district court, bankruptcy court, and appellate court, alphabetical. So you can scroll through it. You can change how many you're looking at. And you can also search. So maybe I just want to pull up all the Indiana courts. So I'll just type in Indiana. And here are all the Indiana courts. And I can see how far back the case coverage goes. So the Indiana Northern District Court has some dockets back to 1968. And then you can see how current they are. They're all current as of yesterday. Okay, let's go back and look at searches. And there are different searches you can do. You can do a basic case search, advanced case search, party search, advanced party search, or bankruptcy search. Pretty much with the advanced searches, you just get more fields to type in more information, such as, we'll start here. We'll type in the party name. I was looking up, oops, I'll just type it. The last name is Swift. The first name is Taylor. The party role was plaintiff. So if you want, you could pre-filter with plaintiff. Also, if you don't know what any of these categories mean, you just hover over the question mark in the blue circle and it will tell you what all these fields mean. Like here's the docket number field, and it tells you, it gives you suggestions on formatting your docket numbers. And then region is your jurisdiction. So I'm going to select, this case is in the Ninth Circuit. And then if I wanted, I could add some date ranges. But I'm going to click search. Oh, that's weird. Why does it come back? I'll just try the name. Okay, so this is just using names. So here are all of the cases with a party named Taylor Swift. And the case I was looking for is from the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Ninth Circuit, and I'm going to select that case. And here is the docket sheet for this case in the Ninth Circuit. And we'll come back and look at that. The other search that you can do, I'm going to go back to pacer.gov. And then I'm going to click on Find a Case. You can go ahead and search individual court websites if you know the location of a case. So you can click on that and you get the listing of all the courts. And I have another case in mind that came out of the DC Circuit. So I'm going to choose that. And then it will ask you to log into Pacer again. But if you're already logged in, you shouldn't have to. So I'm going to click on Log into Pacer. And now I'm in the DC Circuit's Pacer. And this is basic search, and here's the link here to advanced search. In this case, I'm going to type in the docket number for the case. So it was 13-5270. Other information I could add would be party or attorney names, the case type. I could select a case type here. I could select the case origin, so I could search for cases only from a particular originating court. If I had the maybe the district court case number, I could type that there. I could choose to find cases that all designated under a particular nature of suit code, or I could search for multiple cases filed closed between certain dates. But I'm just going to pull up this one case by its docket number. And then, so this is interesting. So notice, even if you don't get a result, it still charges you for viewing a page. So I'm going to go back. This is like when you teach and you go to class and all your searches that you tried at home work, and then you get up in class in front of your students and nothing works. So let's see, what did I click on? I don't think I try it again. I'll just put it right here. 13-5270. There it is. Okay. So on this page, you have a couple options. Here is my docket number that I typed in. So if I click on this docket number, 13-5270, that will take me right to the docket sheet. If I click on the party name here, or the case title, then that will take me to a case query, which is a case search. So it will just run a search for this party name. And then over here on the right is the docket number for the originating case out of the district court. So I'm just going to look at the appellate court. And here's the appellate docket sheet. And notice this is not the entire docket sheet. I can click on full docket, and now I want to run that docket report, and it's going to charge me 70 cents to look at that. So notice at the top of the docket sheet, here's our docket number, our nature of suit code, our case title. This is the National Association of Convenience Stores versus the Federal Reserve System. This case is on appeal from the U.S. District Court from the District of Columbia. And here are all of the attorneys for the plaintiffs and defendants, and there were a ton because a lot of parties joined. And then if you scroll down past all of the attorneys, then you have your docket sheet. So notice here there is a title and a description of each pleading and document in the docket sheet with the dates that they were entered. There's a little description that tells you how long the documents are, and then this little symbol will let you open the docket. So I clicked on that, and it's telling me I will be billed for 2 pages. So then you have the option to accept the charges and retrieve, and then here's my document. Also, if you want the complaint, then you have to go to the district court case. So here is that link for the originating case and my appellate docket. I click on that, and now I'm going to run a report on the district court docket number and scroll down. And here's that docket. And I'll show you what that looks like. So now you'll see the documents are numbered. Here's the complaint. So I click on the docket number, and I can view all or download all. And that's going to charge me $7.90. I hope I don't rack up $30 so the law library doesn't get a bill. And then it actually combined those 3 PDFs into one document for me. And I have the complaint and 2 other pleadings that went with it. So that's a docket in Pacer. Another thing you can find in Pacer are briefs. So whatever, when you're in Pacer, if you find that link up there that says briefs, you click on that and then just type in your docket number and search. Fix your date range. There. And then those are all of the briefs associated with the case. And if I wanted to incur some more charges, I would just click on that. But before they charge you, they do give you a download confirmation page that asks you whether or not you want to accept the charges and retrieve. Okay, so that's Pacer, and now we're going to look at an alternative to Pacer. Pacer has been criticized for being technically out of date and hard to use, and for demanding fees for records, which are actually in the public domain. So in reaction to that, some nonprofit projects have made these documents available online for free. Recap is an online archive and a free browser extension for Firefox and Chrome that improves the experience of using Pacer, and it provides greater open access to the public records in Pacer. So if you install the browser extension, then when you view these documents in Pacer, you will automatically donate them to the public repository in Recap, which is hosted by the Internet Archive. And then Recap will also save you money by alerting you when you're looking at a docket in Pacer that the document that you want to open is already available from the Recap archive. So part of Recap is Court Listener, and that's the archive. And it's a legal database operated by the Free Law Project. And they have case law content similar to other free online databases, like last week when Kim showed us Google Scholar. So I think they have almost the same content for cases that Google Scholar has. And you can search for cases by keyword or citation, and then the advanced searching will let you limit by jurisdiction, status, filing, etc. The other part of Court Listener is the Recap archive, and that's where you can go to search for millions of Pacer documents and dockets that were gathered using the Recap extension in Firefox and Chrome. So let's pop over. I want to show you. I did download it in Firefox. So I'm going to click OK. And the case that I want to look for and Pacer now. So you can see up in the right-hand corner of my browser is the recap extension. And I'm going to look for a different Taylor Swift case. And this one is Sean Hall v. Taylor Swift. And actually, I want to go, this is the appellate court docket. I want to go to the district court docket. I clicked on that link, run the report, and I'll scroll down to the filings that are listed. And now, if you can see, in the docket sheet in Pacer, see the little blue R? That tells you that somebody has already donated this document, the complaint, to recap. So then I could click on that and go to the recap archive and not have to pay Pacer. Then also, if I want to click on a document here and download it and view it, now because I'm paying for it, I am donating it to the recap archive. So everybody wins. Let me click on that and see if that really goes to recap. Yep, see, click on that, get this document for free from recap, and then it takes us to the free version. The other thing, let me go to the handout. Oops. And here are the links. So here's the link to get the extension, and then here's the archive, where you could just go here and search. So you can type anything in the basic search box here, or you could put party names here in the case name. So, and then click search. And it probably would have been a good idea to limit by jurisdiction first. But here's what a basic search is. And here's what the docket looks like here. And if the documents are in the court listener archive, then you just click on the link that says download PDF. So that's court listener and recap. Let's go back. Now I want to talk to you about where else you can go to find court records and briefs. And one place you can go to find briefs available in print or microfiche is your library. And the Jerome Hall Law Library is one of only 10 repositories of U.S. Supreme Court records and briefs in print. And although our collection is extensive, it's not complete. So the U.S. Supreme Court Library has the most complete collection of Supreme Court briefs. So you can call the clerk's office if you can't find something anywhere else. We also have print collections of records and briefs for the U.S. Court of Appeals, the Indiana Supreme Court, and the Indiana Court of Appeals briefs. And that content should be on the handout. And our print briefs are housed in the library until they're bound, and then they're relocated to the ALF, which is the Auxiliary Library Facility. So it's just off-site storage. So we have to use IUCAT to retrieve those briefs. So we're happy to help anyone who's looking for these types of materials. We can get them for you, scan them, and send them to you. Also on the right side of the slide, you can see the free places to go to get briefs. We looked at the Supreme Court website earlier. There's also the U.S. Department of Justice Office of the Solicitor General, and that they have a pretty large database of petitions for cert and briefs filed by the Solicitor General going back to 1985. And then SCOTUS blog is a free website that contains briefs and oral argument transcripts for cases that have been granted cert, and that goes back to 2007. Then there are 3 commercial databases that you can use if you have access to them. These aren't necessarily legal databases, so any academic library might have the Making of Modern Law Supreme Court Records and Briefs collection, which covers 1832 to 1978. And then ProQuest Supreme Court Insight covers 1975 to 2018. And you can find complete case histories in ProQuest, starting with the petition for cert, a complete docket with all of the briefs and the oral arguments and the appendixes and all that good stuff. So let's see. I wanted to show you the best place to go for oral argument. So after the court agrees to hear a case, then the date is set up for the oral arguments, and attorneys for each party have 30 minutes to persuade the justices, who then ask questions during the oral argument. Transcripts and recordings of oral arguments before appellate courts preserve the presentations made by attorneys for the parties and preserves those questions asked by the judges. So the best place to go is the OIA project, and that's a database on major constitutional cases heard by the U.S. Supreme Court. And the audio recordings go back to 1955, and that's when they first began to record the oral argument. So if we go to the handout, the link for OIA is, I think, on the third page. So we'll go here, and you can browse by cases or you can search for a case name. So you could click on cases and browse them by term, or you can search. So we'll look for the Timms case, Timms v. Indiana. And if you click here, you'll hear the argument, and it's synchronized with the transcript. So this is pretty cool. And you can scroll down the transcript and click on anywhere you want to go in the oral argument. And you see when a justice is speaking, their photograph at the top is highlighted. You can't hear it? Okay. Well, you'll have to go there on your own because this is a super cool website. So that's the OIA project. And then if you look at the slide or the handout, you'll see Court Listener has Supreme Court oral argument back to 2003, but they have a huge database of oral argument for the appellate courts, and there's a link in the handout that will take you to the content coverage page. And I looked at the Ninth Circuit. They have oral argument files, audio files going back to 2003. So I think I can stop and take questions if anybody has any questions. The Adobe thing. Stop.
I'm going to go ahead and put up the download for the 2 documents that Jennifer gave us. We uploaded those, so you can download those from the file share at the top. It also has your LEU certificate there at the bottom. So I'm going to leave that up for a little bit while Jennifer takes questions.
Yeah, if anybody, look at the resource list and you can see these subscription databases that we have. If you ever need any court materials, any Supreme Court briefs or anything that you don't have in your library, just, give us a call or you can email me and we can send you PDFs. We're happy to do that for you. Also, I would recommend registering for a Pacer account and playing around with it, and just make sure you don't accrue $30 in one quarter and you won't be billed. Mhm.
Jennifer, I want to thank both you and Kim for doing this for us. I have learned a lot, and I really appreciate you guys doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome.